This is the Global Economic Commodity Scrap Metal and Recycling Report by our Bentley roll-off trailer and lugger truck, April 19th, 2021. U.S. weekly crude steel production fell to 1.761 million tons as the steel mill utilization rate fell to 77.6 despite good demand and short supply. Low production is continuing to drive prices higher. WTI crude oil price rose to $63.13 a barrel, the fourth week of gains on upbeat economic news from China and the U.S. Also, the IEA, the International Energy Agency, and OPEC raised oil demand forecasts. The U.S. oil rig count rose to 344, still down 78.6% from 2014's high. Good demand and better prices are supporting the rig count. Scrap steel number one, HMS buying price Philly, rose to $340 a gross ton on good demand and good supply. Scrap steel number one, HMS settled at $391.67 a gross ton on slow demand increases and good supply. This could bring stable prices in May. Hot rolled coil steel rose to $68.57 a hundredweight, near a new record high on good demand and limited supply. Prices remain rising though. Copper price rose to $4.16 a pound on better than forecast U.S. and China economic news. Also, copper long-term forecasts are positive and there are supply disruptions in South America due to COVID. Aluminum price rose to $1.04 a pound, near a multi-year high on strong demand and possible Chinese production cuts to cut carbon emissions in China. Chinese Q1 GDP economic growth grew at 18.3% versus last year's COVID shutdown. This was the fastest growth on record actually since 1992 when reporting started. Major growth in exports to the U.S. of consumer goods fueled Chinese growth. Canadian S&P TSX Toronto Stock Market Index rose to 19,351, a new record high, which was commodities and raw materials driven. But the economy continues to struggle with COVID. U.S. March inflation rose to 2.6%, the highest since August 2018, but core inflation, which excludes food and energy, rose only 1.6%. Gasoline rose 22.5%, trucks 9.4%, and natural gas rose 9.8%. U.S. April University of Michigan Consumer Index rose to 86.5, the highest since March. Improving current economics were key, as well as the huge gains versus last year's shutdowns. People are the most optimistic about job creation ever recorded. U.S. March NFIB Small Business Optimism Index rose to 98.2, the highest in 4 months, as state and local restrictions are being eased. The labor shortage is a critical issue holding things back. U.S. initial unemployment claims fell to 576,000, the lowest since March 2020. Vaccinations are picking up speed and supporting the reopening. The $1.9 trillion stimulus is supporting growth, but 16.9 million people are still collecting unemployment. U.S. March housing starts soared 19.4% to 1.739 million annualized, the most since 2006. Low interest rates and increased demand of people moving out of cities is driving the growth. The upside remains huge though. Starts are only at the rate of the 1960s. Wall Street's Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 400 points to 34,201, a new record high on optimism of a great economy. There are forecasts now of 2021 GDP economic growth of 7% or more, the highest in decades. A high Dow brings the wealth effect. People feel rich, so they spend more, which helps the economy. As always, feel free to call or email me with any questions, and we hope all have a safe and and profitable week.